So that's why it is recommended that first we purify ourselves rather than giving up everything and just running away. We first purify ourselves by practice of Nishkama Karma Yoga, and then eventually one can meditate on the super soul, on the Supreme Lord. And when we meditate on the super soul, then one can develop devotion on to him in Bhakti Yoga. So ultimately, all these yogas they culminate in Bhakti Yoga only. They lead to Bhakti Yoga. Without Bhakti Yoga, one cannot attain any perfection. In fact, without Bhakti, other processes also are in themselves incomplete. Hmm. Means one cannot attain perfection only by jnana process. One has to add bhakti to it. Similarly, by karma yoga also one cannot directly attain success. One has to have bhakti. And if they are sincerely performed, eventually they lead to bhakti also. Hmm. So that's how again here also dhyana yoga, by meditating on the super soul, one can develop devotion unto him in bhakti yoga, and we understand that Krishna is supreme enjoyer, ultimate controller, and best friend. And in this way, one becomes a devotee of the Lord. So this is a background of fifth chapter. We ended with this one, this shloka also. Now, um, here again, uh, Krishna is again still continuing the theme in the first chapter, first verse. Hmm. Who is real sannyasi and yogi? So Krishna is again continuing the theme of karma yoga a bit here. So again, Krishna is emphasizing that one who desires to practice Ashtanga Yoga should not suddenly give up his prescribed duties. That's what Krishna is emphasizing in this first two verses. So please recite first verse.
Hare Krishna. Anashrita karma phalam
अनाश्रिता कर्म फलं
karyam karma karoti ya
कार्यं कर्म करोति यः
sa sannyasi cha yogi cha
स सन्न्यासी च योगी च
na niragnirna chakriya.
न निरग्निर्न चाक्रिया.
Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. Purport. In this chapter, the Lord explains that the process of the Eightfold Yoga system is a means to control the mind and the senses. However, this is very difficult for people in general to perform, especially in the age of Kali. Although the Eightfold Yoga system is recommended in this chapter, the Lord emphasizes that the process of Karma Yoga or acting in Krishna consciousness is better. Everyone acts in this world to maintain his family and their paraphernalia, but no one is working without some self interest, some personal gratification, but be it concentrated or extended. The criteria of perfection is to act in Krishna consciousness and not with a view to enjoying the fruits of work. To act in Krishna consciousness is the duty of every living entity because all are constitutionally parts and parcels of the Supreme. The parts of the body work for the satisfaction of the whole body. The limbs of the body do not act for self satisfaction, but for the satisfaction of the complete whole. Similarly, the living entity who acts for satisfaction of the supreme whole and not for personal satisfaction is the perfect sannyasi, the perfect yogi. The sannyasis sometimes artificially think that they have become liberated from all material duties and therefore they cease to perform Agnihotra Yagyas, fire sacrifices. But actually, they are self interested because their goal is to become one with the impersonal Brahman. Such a desire is greater than any material desire, but it is not without self interest. Similarly, the mystic yogi who practices the yoga system with half open eyes, ceasing all material activities, desires some satisfaction for his personal self. But a person acting in Krishna consciousness works for the satisfaction of the whole without self interest. A Krishna conscious person has no desire for self satisfaction. His criteria of success is the satisfaction of Krishna, and thus he is the perfect sannyasi or perfect yogi. Lord Chaitanya, the highest perfectional symbol of renunciation, prays in this way. न धनं न जनं न सुंदरीं कवितां वा जगत ईश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवतात् भक्ति अहैतुकी त्वयि. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor to enjoy beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. What I want only is the causeless mercy of your devotional service in my life, birth after birth.
Yeah. So the connection between fifth chapter and sixth chapter is that Krishna, by discussing Ashtanga Yoga, he establishes that it is an impractical path, and therefore one should reject it in the favor of Bhakti Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga was mentioned in 27th verse to set a scene for chapter number 6. 5th chapter, 27th verse, we discuss certain aspects of Ashtanga Yoga. So before practicing advanced stages of Ashtanga Yoga, as described in that 5.27 and 28, one must become purified by Nishkama Karma Yoga. One must be in full control of mind, and one must be completely indifferent to and unaffected by material things. And so these three things one should achieve before embarking on the path of Ashtanga Yoga. One should be purified by practice of Karma Yoga. One should be in full control of his mind and senses. And third thing is, one should be above the dualities of the world, basically. Indifferent or unattached to material things, he should be detached from material things. Now we see that so many yoga societies are there. This yoga word has become so famous throughout the world, everywhere in West, East, everywhere. Now, how many of them have these three qualifications before they are taking to this yoga? Nobody has, right? So what do we call this? That's why their yoga practice is simply a farce. They may do some type of meditation, but what meditation they can do? These are the preliminary qualifications required, isn't it, to practice any yoga? So now this is the first section of this particular chapter. So this first section is enemy or friend. So one may say, okay, again and again Krishna is refusing here. Then why at all should we read this chapter then? Why not to skip this chapter and go ahead to 7th chapter directly? But one thing is that this chapter gives us very nice clues about mind, which are very vital in our practice of spiritual life itself. So that's why, although the techniques of Ashtanga Yoga may be impractical, but the knowledge of mind and dealing with mind are very important for a sadhaka. So that's why there are various important things are there in this chapter. That's why we study it, which can be applied even for a bhakti yogi. Certain things may not be able to be applied, like sit too high, too low, sit on a deer skin and all that. That may not be applied for us. But one can always, apply those things about mind, dealings with mind. So that's why we study this chapter. So generally, anybody who takes sannyas, he generally lights no fire. So generally, what do you mean by lighting no fire? Lighting no fire means he doesn't cook for himself and he doesn't do fire sacrifices, because one lights fire for these two things, either for cooking or for fire sacrifice. So what it indicates, cooking means sannyasi lights no fire means he should not cook for himself anything. Whatever he gets by begging, he should accept only that much. He should not cook more than, he should not think that chalo aaj hum rasgulla banayenge, aaj hum hamare Gopal ke liye aaj hum pizza banayenge. So all this he doesn't do. He doesn't cook for himself. In fact, it is so strict that in Madhva Sampradaya, if a sannyasi lights fire, those days at least it was the thing, he was given punishment. So it so happened that once upon a time, is our Vijayadhwaj Tirtha. He was a sannyasi in Madhva Sampradaya, and he one time he felt so hungry, he couldn't control his hunger. So he lit fire and cooked for himself. And then he was eating. When he ate, other devotees saw that and they became so angry on him. And he was taken to the senior most sannyasi and the matha and all that as a complaint that he lit fire. And then because it was so strict those days, the sannyasi means he should be above bodily demands. He should not try to cook for his own things. If he doesn't get anything, means he should fast. Simple. That was the system. It was not that, okay, if I'm feeling little hungry, I can cook something for myself. It was not like that. So this Vijayadhaj Tirtha, he lit fire, he cooked and he ate. So he was taken to the head sannyasi, guru, acharya, and there was a complaint that he ate it. He cooked and ate. So then he said that you have only two options. One option is that either you commit suicide, you have to give up your life. Sannyasi, you have broken the vow of sannyas, of not lighting fire. So you should commit suicide and die. Second option is you write commentary on Bhagavatam. So means writing commentary on Bhagavatam is as difficult as giving up one's own life. You can imagine. So that's why even in learned circles, somebody has commentary on Bhagavatam means he's really considered to be very advanced and scholarly. He is not an ordinary person. Even in Shastric circles, if you go, somebody has written a bona fide commentary on Bhagavatam means he is a very exalted personality. That's the notion. So then he was thinking, Vijayadhaj Tirtha, what to do? Giving up life is too much, Why should I give up life? Life is given to me by Lord, and let me engage in his service. If I give up my life, then my service will also be terminated. I don't know what will happen to me ahead. So he said, okay, I choose to write commentary on Bhagavatam. In fact, everybody expected that he will decide to give up life. He'll be so ashamed and all that. Because those days, nobody used to write commentaries on Bhagavatam. It was considered to be like, an impossible thing, somebody writing commentary. That's why it was equated to that, committing, giving up life. But then everybody was shocked that he said, I'll write commentary on Bhagavatam. And he actually wrote commentary on Bhagavatam, very beautiful commentary. We see Prabhupada, he refers Vijayadhaj Tirtha's commentary often in his Bhagavatam purports. We'll see again and again Prabhupada speaks about Vijayadhaj Tirtha. So among 6 commentaries, this Vijayadhaj Tirtha was one of the commentary which Prabhupada referred to. Vijayadhaj Tirtha, Veer Raghavacharya, Jiva Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and whatever Bhakti Swami, Sridhar Swami, Baldev Vidyabush, Vishwacharya Thakur. So all these commentaries Prabhupada used to refer. So one of them is Vijayadhaj Tirtha. So because he lit fire, so that's why he had to write commentary on Bhagavatam, but it came out very nicely. It came out very wonderful commentary. In fact, that is the first commentary in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, it seems, on Bhagavatam. I don't know, was there any other commentary before? There was
Low battery.
Sridhar Swami exactly is in Madhva Sampradaya. He is the original commentator of Bhagavatam, but is he in a Madhva Sampradaya exactly? Yeah, he's the first. He's the original commentator of Bhagavatam. We refer to his. But in our own Madhva Sampradaya specifically, in Sri Sampradaya also this Veer Raghavacharya has written. We don't know whether anybody else wrote also or not. Veer Raghavacharya has written in Sri Sampradaya on commentary on Bhagavatam. So there are like that very less commentators. Anyways, so it came from lighting fire. He wrote lit fire and there was a Bhagavatam. So it was a wonderful arrangement of the Lord. But Krishna here is telling just by not lighting fire, just because somebody is not cooking and pretending himself to be a sannyasi, that doesn't make one sannyasi. Because there are Mayavadi sannyasis also who don't lit fire. So this is one import. Second import of not lighting fire means, as it is stated here, sometimes they think that now because we have become sannyasi, we don't have to do any duty. So we can give up our fire sacrifices and all such things. I don't have to do any fire sacrifice. So that is also another kind of misconception. So usually, sannyas means giving up performing fire sacrifices. Here, Krishna third time is asserting that one should not give up one's work in this particular verse. In fact, the true renunciate or true mystic means one who performs his duty but renounces the fruit. That is the real renunciation. So, anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karotiha. One who does his duty but renounces the fruit. That is called as the real sannyasi. So
here, if one is renouncing, as you told that the purpose of sannyas is that you should give up higher sacrifice. And when he is
usually it is not that it is like a custom. It is not an injunction. But Krishna is negating that injunction. He said it is not like that. One should not give up one's duties, even as a sannyasi. So we see in our ISKCON society, we don't give up. We don't give up karma. We don't give up working. It is not that we just sit at one place. Sannyasi travels and preaches. He does so many things. In fact, he cooks also, isn't it nowadays? So that's why Krishna, it was a traditional customary understanding that sannyasi means he should give up work. But it is not the thing. Krishna is not approving it here like that. So real sannyasi means who performs his duties but renounces the fruit. So he may not be in sannyas ashram, he may be in grahastha ashram, but he's also as good as sannyasi if he is performing his duty but not attached to the fruits. So, and one of the major duty of a brahmana is that he should perform agnihotra sacrifice. But Krishna is again explaining that one who is not advanced in a sannyas, he thinks, oh, I have knowledge, I don't have to perform any duty now. I can just give up my duty. But this is not the sign of an advanced personality. Rather, the advanced soul, he performs his duties with detachment. So, Krishna again repeats this point before describing this Ashtanga Yoga so that one will not become confused. One will not say, "Arey, itni sari cheeze kaise karne ka?" What to do, what not to do. So, generally we see that these Ashtanga yogis, they usually go to forest and renounce all their prescribed duties. But then, one should not artificially try to become Ashtanga yogi like this. One must first perform detached work before they become advanced enough to renounce the work. So first you learn detached work, then eventually one can renounce the work. That's what Krishna is very clearly mentioning to so that's why Krishna is again and again emphasizing on this beforehand only. So Ashtanga Yoga, as Prabhupada writing in the purport, that Karma Yoga is better than Ashtanga Yoga because Ashtanga Yoga is a means to control mind and senses, is very difficult, especially in this Kali Yuga. Very, very difficult. Everyone in this world is working simply for personal interests, either personal means personal sense gratification or extended for the family, society, nation, country, all that. So, and even if we see that, so generally we see that there are so many sannyasis, Mayavadi sannyasis, impersonalist sannyasis, although they might have detached, they might have become renounced, but still we see that they have a desire. What is that? They want to become God, or they want to merge into God. So this is the highest sense gratification. They want to become God only, because you become God means what? You can enjoy anything and everything, right, in this world. So that is the highest desire of sense gratification there. So how they are detached? They cannot be called as detached, isn't it? So it is a falgu vairagya. It's a meaningless detachment. So their so-called giving up their duties, like performing yajnas and all that, is simply a farce. Also mystic yogis, we see, they also want to show their mystic yoga, isn't it? Like in Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we see that Falgu Bhagwan and this, other one fellow. So they also seek some satisfaction for personal self. Mystic yogis also by by getting some siddhis, उनको बहुत वो satisfaction मिलता है, kind of satisfaction in the sense gratification, you can say, gratification मिलता है कि I can impress people by a lot of mystic siddhis. अरे हमने ये करके दिखाया, वो करके दिखाया, like that. But the criteria for perfection, actually, as Krishna is also mentioning, is to act in Krishna consciousness with not with the view to enjoy. So even if one wants to enjoy mystic siddhis or one wants to enjoy becoming God, that is also not considered to be perfection. So Prabhupada gives an analogy that just as the limbs, the parts of the body, they should work in order to support the whole body, isn't it? If just parts of the body, if they say that we don't want to work at all, we'll just remain like that, even they themselves will perish. Similarly, everybody should work to satisfy Krishna. That is the duty of all living entities. Hmm. So, real sannyasi or a perfect yogi is the one who works only for the satisfaction of Krishna without any self-interest. Hmm. So that's why Krishna conscious devotee is the best sannyasi and the perfect yogi. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is depicting that mood. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadishaka. Mama janma Shri Bhavatam. So that is the mood of a real sannyasi or real yogi. He doesn't want even liberation. He is ready to serve Lord anywhere, either in heaven or in hell or in earth or in spiritual world, wherever Lord wants. His only desire is to satisfy Krishna and no desire for personal satisfaction. That is real sannyasi. So it is not just by some dress or by some particular type of ashram or a particular type of activity that one becomes a sannyasi, but one becomes sannyasi by proper consciousness and attitude. That makes one sannyasi and yogi, not just some external dress or some external renunciation. Okay, so this completes the first verse, but today is class by Amog Lila Prabhu for Sunday Feast. So we would like to stop here for today. Next week we'll continue with the second verse onwards. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Jai.
These two verses again, Krishna is emphasizing that one should not just merely renounce one's duties. One should not renounce karma yoga, but one should first purify his heart by performing karma yoga, and then one can, when one is perfect, then one can actually become. So again, means basically it is little overflowing from 5th chapter only. Karma yoga is overflowing in 1-2 verses now. Then Krishna will start. Okay.
But 3 things we got before practicing is Ashtanga Yoga.
First one is that one's mind and senses should be fully controlled. Second thing,
Purified by practice of
one should be purified by practice of Nishkam Karma Yoga, and
dualities of this
one
world.
should be about dualities or attachments of this world.
Prajit, Dhritarashtra perfected his life by Ashtanga Yoga, or it was
By Ashtanga Yoga.
so he didn't had these 3 things, no? Like as a prerequisite.
So recently, somebody asked this question to somebody. Recently, this question was asked. Dhritarashtra did not do any of these things. So Dhritarashtra is an example of Krupa Siddhi. His instructions of Vidur were so powerful that it immediately uplifted him to the level of detachment. Generally, this is not the case. It is gradually person gets detached. Like in the first year only, if you tell person that you join ashram, it becomes difficult, right? So similarly, Dhritarashtra, but he got such powerful instructions by Vidura. So because of that, he immediately was elevated to the great stage. So that is a special empowerment, or you can say Krupa of Vidur, because of which you could then get that qualification. Otherwise, it was not very easy for him. Like that. Okay.
I mean, Vidur had that much potency.
Vidura had that much potency. He could uplift.
But then why didn't he give in the beginning? Or when
He was giving,
but he was not.
he was not taking. Now he required that his 100 sons die. Before that, he was so intoxicated by this thing. उनको झटके का जरूरत था. तो झटका जब तक नहीं मिला तब तक उनका वो इंटॉक्सिकेशन चल ही रहा था. तो झटका मिल गया, फिर भी इंटॉक्सिकेशन चल रहा था. विदुर हैड टू टेल हिम, अरे तुम कुत्ता हो, कुत्ता जैसा तुम खा रहे हो, भीम ने दिया हुआ रोटी खा रहे हो. तो इतना सॉलिड इंसल्ट किया विदुर ने, तो थोड़ा उनका दिमाग ठिकाने पे आ गया. फिर वो his words work. Otherwise he always advised like that. But right situation did not have come for Dhritarashtra to be open-hearted. He was always reflecting. ठीक है. In fact, he used to tell Vidura, Dhritarashtra used to tell Vidura, I know that what you are telling is correct, but what to do? My attachments are so strong. He used to admit also, I am not able to give up my attachments.
We see the typical Kali Yuga mentality. People are addicts. जब तक लात नहीं पड़ता तब तक then they will say गलती क्या है.
Yeah, but then one has to suffer now. Is it a right nice way? There are two ways. एक है कि आप सुन के समझो, एक है लात खा के समझो. वो अच्छा वे नहीं है लात खा के समझने का. It's if you are intelligent, you learn and understand. You learn from the shastras and understand it. Why to always have necessary? As Ranarath Maharaj says, now don't wait for calamities to become serious in Krishna consciousness. So that's not a very, because so much suffering we'll have to undergo. Like Dhritarashtra had to undergo so much suffering, isn't it? Because of, he had to see his 100 sons die. How much he must have cried, because of that. So all that suffering, why to do that? If he would have become good and he would have advised Duryodhan nicely, he would have controlled Duryodhan that time only. There was no war. He could have very easily attained the same perfection or even better perfection than what he attained, rather than going through such a big order. Okay, Hari Hari, thank you. We'll meet next week now.